Here we are in 11th grade, AP, and we are looking at the first question. Max, read it and tell us what you came up with.
Let's see. Discuss Twain's attitude towards sentimentality in the novel. Define sentimentality and give examples from the novel illustrating Twain's attitude. So sentimentality is kind of this extreme emotion, and Mark Twain.
Before you go on, what's wrong with it, according to Mark Twain? Now, you may not think there's anything, but it's what is Mark Twain's opinion of it in this book?
His opinion of it is bad because people aren't thinking clearly.
Right. That's right.
They're sentimental.
That's the aspect that he emphasizes. I like who was it? Caroline this morning said, your judgment is clouded. I like the word judgment because maybe we're thinking about a math problem or something, but judgment is what we're talking about. People make bad choices in this book when they're guided by too many emotions. Tell me what you came up with as far as proof.
Yeah, so he says sentimentality is bad, and this can be always seen in the camp meeting when all of the Christians they were overly sentimental about was it the Duke?
What was the king?
The king, yeah. So by him saying that he was a pirate and that he was a born pirate and he was gonna be a missionary to other pirates, and so they were overly emotional because of that. They were able to be deceived and
Right. Yeah. Keep going. I mean, and anybody to help, whatever. I just need one person to tell me what you came up with in your group.
Then there's also the Sherburne mob, and the mob is overly emotional about it, and they're willing to stoop to cowardice almost to
Right.
exact revenge or kind of upon Sherburne.
Yeah, but it didn't work. Why?
Because Sherburne he sat on top of the roof with a gun and he mocks the crowd.
Yes. You wouldn't think that would be very safe, right? It's 200, I don't know how many people, but so what does that show us about the over sentimental mob? What is that? What's the kind of lesson that comes out of it? And one person like Sherburne is able to manipulate them
and push them in the direction that he wants.
exactly. That shows you that. I mean, if they thought about it, there's only one of him and there's 100 of us, and anybody had a little brains could have been able to figure that. We can rush the guy, but they weren't thinking, which is the problem. That's two good examples. I'm always a little disappointed when I'm reading a paper and I'm thinking more. I want more. That's how you should approach it. Don't stop with 2 or 3 or 4 if you can think of it and you have time. Give them all you've got. Pile up the examples and the evidence. What else? What else? That's just 2 things.
Also, seeing with the judge and how he received Huck's father Pat, and he was overly emotional and kind of
Who was?
the judge.
Yes.
And having him to dinner and almost wanting to believe that he changed as a person, but he's naive and Pat ended up just getting drunk and
Which was taking advantage of the guy's sympathy. And so, in all 3 of those cases, and there are probably more, do you have another one?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, my group kind of talked about the Granger ferns and shepherd sons, about how, they're just in it to kill, and their families are kind of, creating that emotion.
And what do they not do? Because Buck said, why are you fighting the feud? And so what do they not do?
Thinking about, resolving it, maybe.
Yeah, they're not thinking about why are we doing this. They don't have a reason. And that's probably the best example. It is both a mob and people that are overly sentimental. And since you brought it up, Emmeline Grangerford is the poster child for sentimentality in this book. How so? And how is how is she an illustration of what's bad about sentimentality?
She kind of expresses an emotion for something or some people that like just aren't alive anymore, and it's kind of like too much.
Yes.
Where it's kind of like weird, and she almost goes into the poem in the book like mocking one of the people that she was talking about, and she didn't mean to.
Right.
Which is just kind of terrible in itself.
So she makes a mockery of violence because she's not thinking. You know, this is not normal. A 16-year-old girl, whatever, she shouldn't be all consumed with people dying. And so the mockery of her, she is a satirical character, shows his feelings about overly emotional. Yeah.
So like a part two to this book.
There actually were more than one. He wrote a couple books about Tom and Huck, but they didn't come close to the seriousness. It's more like at the end of the book when they're just playing games about Jim. Those stories are mostly like, I've never read one except for when they actually literally, he didn't finish it, they literally go out, like it says at the end of the book. What does he say? We're going to talking about the West. What does he say?
Indian territory.
Yes, this is a book about that, and they go out there, and it's really a very dark. Well, he didn't finish it. It's really a very dark book. He describes the ways the Indians, sort of their savagery, and one of the characters gets killed, and this book has all the charm that Mark Twain had. You know, he was able to talk these things, still never lose his sense of humor. That book has no sense of humor. It's just really, really kind of dark. He never finished it. Anything else? Oh, nobody mentioned the way, I did hear somebody talk about it, the way Huck is not sentimental. Like the opposite of the sentimental was really here. What happened, Nick?
Well, if he hesitated and he went back and tried to help the robbers instead of leaving them to die, he could have also died. So in not being very sentimental, I mean, he saved his own life. So if he was too sentimental, he could have gotten himself killed.
Even says it. There's no time for sentimentary. Even says it. That's why quotes are so valuable. How can you argue with the text? It says he's not sentimental, and his actions prove it. He just doesn't let people, like you said, he's so pragmatic. It's either me or them. He makes an effort to save them.
He made the logical decision.
Yeah.
He needed their stuff to keep going down the river, so he took their stuff. He did his best to help them, but he didn't go back himself because he knew it was, like you said, them or him.
I mean, can you imagine Emmeline Grangerford in a similar situation? She's obsessed with it, and she accomplishes nothing almost. One other thing about it would be when Buck dies, because he really was a friend. How did he react to that?
I mean, he saw it and he like felt bad about it, but it was really not for that long. He just moved on.
Well, he even says, I don't like thinking about it.
Yeah.
So it shows you that it really made an impact on him.
But he knows he needs not to think about it and not dwell on it for too long.
It
It
didn't-
won't help
He
him.
would have been stuck if he didn't.
Yeah.
His name is never mentioned again in the book.
Yeah.
You got almost 30 chapters left, and Buck Grangerford never appears. The name never comes up. So you made a pretty good case about that. How about over here? How about the violence part, number 2? The violence, and it's a little bit redundant, but maybe you could state it in any examples that you think are pertinent. Like, what's the connection between violence and sentimentality?
I just kind of thought that like because Huck and Jim only really have themselves and nothing else, like they don't possess anything else, there's no reason that they should try and get into anything that could hurt themselves, you know? They don't want to start anything with anyone else because then they could be losing themselves or losing Jim to someone.
So you're saying that's a very practical decision.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not worth it. It's not worth losing all this just to get back at somebody. Who also, oddly enough, does he give credit for teaching him how to get along with people?
The Duke and the dog.
Well, they certainly did teach
Oh,
him that, but it was
Pap.
Pap. And Pap said, is get along with people. It's a very practical thing. And I'd add one other thing. You kind of hinted to it. What is Jim and Huck's status in this society? Like, what is their clout? What is their power?
They have none,
None. And why? Why is that?
because
They're an orphan and escaped
Slave.
slave.
An orphan and a slave.
people can take advantage of
that's
that,
right.
so they just don't even let people in, so.
So it's that too, and that's a good point. That too is a practical answer, a practical reason for not being violent. Yes.
I think that like the Duke and the Dolphin like kind of did take advantage of Huck and Jim.
Definitely.
But at the same time, Huck knew that,
Right.
so he didn't let it, but in a way he let it on.
He wasn't fooled by them. He made a practical decision. We're gonna let them do this. I know they're not the king and the duke, but we're gonna let them do this. So that's not being sentimental at all, even though they're allowing themselves not being fooled.
And it was like the smart decision in the long run.
Anybody else over in your group, anybody else want to mention the violence, again, the factor, the sentimentality? We're almost finished, guys, we got about 2 minutes.
We
Yeah.
said
I'm sorry, I couldn't tell who was talking.
we said that the sentimentality kind of leads to the violence, and that kind of shows with the Grandpappers and the Shepherdsons, because they were so angry with each other and they had such strong emotions against each other that it led them to resort to violence.
And I think you could make the case that Sherburne, he's not emotional, but he's proud. Proud is an emotion. It shows itself in different ways, but Sherburne was too proud. I said I was gonna kill you, so I gotta kill you. The Grangerfords, they gotta kill him. It's just it's very much a part of their life. So those two things go together. Number 3, we just have, we don't have any time. So we'll start here tomorrow. Please put the chairs back. You want to say something?
Oh, no.
That was Kayla.